with us on this Monday edition of Ed Schultz News and Commentary. Hope you had a wonderful and blessed Thanksgiving with family and friends, as we did. And, of course, the news cycle continues, and there was a horrific shooting and murder in Colorado Springs, Colorado, at a Planned Parenthood clinic. 3 people dead, 9 injured. When is this country going to come to grips that maybe we should have federal security at these facilities that provide women's health care in this country? I mean, that's what it's come to. That's where the conversation needs to go, because these shootings, apparently they don't seem to be less in number. You know, on one hand, we have got the mainstream media telling the American people that what candidates say matters. Yet we don't really put a whole lot of stock in all the hateful rhetoric towards Planned Parenthood clinics. You can't have it both ways. And I think the perfect example of this is the Reverend Mike Huckabee, a former Baptist minister who wants to be president of the United States. He sees no connection whatsoever between the hateful rhetoric out there and what's happening at Planned Parenthood clinics around the country, that certainly no one wants to see anybody get killed. That's what he counters with. Let me ask you, Mr. Huckabee, when you're in church and you're preaching, do you want people to believe what you say? When the federal government allows the Republican Party to hold this country hostage for funding the government unless we defund Planned Parenthood, you think that that's not going to have an effect on some radicals out there who have firearms and who think because the government's going to be shut down because the Republicans said it was going to be, I better get my firearm out there and do something about it? Don't tell me that there's no connection between the hateful rhetoric that goes on with Republicans in this country towards women in this country and Planned Parenthood. It's simply, there is clearly a connection. And the Republicans are in denial. So this is how Huckabee spins the whole thing.
I don't know of any pro-life leader, any. If you can tell me one, please correct me. But I don't know of anybody who has suggested violence toward Planned Parenthood personnel or some act of violence toward their clinics. I've not heard that, not from one single pro-life person. I've heard universal condemnation, whether it's from the Centers for Medical Progress that put out the videos, whether it's from pro-life advocates, and I consider myself one of them. I know of nobody who has ever suggested that Planned Parenthood be the target of some type of violent attack. So let me ask you this, Mr. Huckabee, Mr. Preacher. You don't think it's suggested violence when you tell people that they're not going to get their Social Security checks? You think that it's to cut people off of assistance who deeply depend on it? You don't view that as a violent act? I guess we have to define the word violence. The fact of the matter is that the Republicans are way out of step in this country, and the rhetoric that they have thrown on our society is resulting in shootings like this. For more on this, let's turn to Katrina vanden Heuvel. She's the editor, part owner of The Nation magazine. I want to get her take on this situation and the rhetoric and the way the right is spinning all of this as if, well, gosh, we got to hold, presidential candidates in check with what they say because words matter. But over here, it's okay to just go after Planned Parenthood and anything we don't philosophically line up with. Katrina, good to have you with us today.
Thank you, Ed, and I hope you had a good Thanksgiving weekend. You know, the Colorado shooting comes amid an alarming, horrific escalation of anti-abortion violence. We need to put it in that context. Ever since this anti-abortion group called the Center for Medical Progress released a series of covertly filmed videos, sting videos, essentially, we've seen threats and attacks on clinics, and abortion providers they've risen dramatically. So I do think the firestorm of hate that you spoke of and cited, Ed, has had consequences. And I think we need to focus, as you said, on those in this campaign who are inflaming and exploiting voters' fears and prejudice and appealing to the basest instincts of their supporters. And we see that in this attack, these killings, and enough. Well,
and there didn't seem to be any quick condemnation of any of these activities, any of this shooting that took place in Colorado from any of the Republicans right away. How long does it take to come to a conclusion that this is horrific and that this is an attack on the law? It's an attack on women's rights in this country. You know,
I mean, there was also a discussion that I was on a CNN reliable sources yesterday talking about Trump and how lies are the foundation of his campaign, how he has refused to back off his lies about thousands of American Muslims cheering after the World Trade Center towers came down. He, in fact, lied again on Meet the Press when he said that the administration is seeking to bring 200,000 Syrian refugees into this country. He really is a master of the big, ugly lie. But, Carly Fiorina, who, here's where media complicity plays a role. She has lied her way through 2 debates, accusing Planned Parenthood of, quote, butchering babies for body parts. She has lied about what she saw. She claims she saw a video, Planned Parenthood doing such things, which is a lie straight out. But yet there is a politeness in the media so that there's reference to her incorrect allegations or inaccuracies. I mean, even Jonah Goldberg, someone who has supported many of these right-wing candidates, said she was fudging the facts. I mean, he couldn't evade that. So I'm just saying, I think, there are consequences for this incendiary, hateful talk, which doesn't mean clamping down, but it means demanding that the media hold these people accountable, asking again and again of Carly Fiorina, for example, what did you see? What did you see? May that come up in the 3rd debate, by the way. I mean, I don't think politeness plays a role. I think silence or politeness is essentially complicity in these times with these candidates.
Well, there's no doubt that what Trump is doing, it's dangerous rhetoric, it's unnecessary rhetoric, and the lies are mixed right in there, and it plays right into the fear-mongering that has propelled a lot of his candidacy. I mean, the fanatics are behind him, the fearful people in America who are low-information voters. This is Trump defending his position in Sarasota, Florida over the weekend.
Because I talked about Muslims that were celebrating over in parts of New Jersey, and everybody knows it's true. And by the way, I had hundreds of tweets and hundreds of phone calls to my office saying, Mr. Trump, it's true. They said, I saw it. So I made the statement, and a lot of people saw it. Did anybody see it reported? People saw it. He knew. And by the way, everybody admits, worldwide, the Muslims were absolutely going wild.
Absolutely going wild, and using Twitter as a source of information to back up his rhetoric. He's
also using his own social media circles. I mean, he's built an alternate reality. There's this kind of right-wing, media ecosystem which exists out there. Now there's a Trumpian right-wing media ecosystem which seems designed simply to service his lies. I mean, think about it. People have a right to their own opinion, but not to their own facts. But there is such distrust, this is the case, Ed, of media among many people. Now, some of that may be fair, because I do think, and all of this BS about, quote, so-called liberal media bias ignores the fact that what we're really up against is a kind of corporatized media which is rigged against the public interest and fails to talk about big issues, is giving us false equivalence and false balance, sensationalism. And I think what you get when you get a Trump, you realize there has to be a course on how do you cover demagogues. We've seen them before in our history, but this guy is a master of the big, ugly lie, and he's denigrating groups of people. Now, listen, you know better than anyone because you travel the country. There is anger in this country.
No question.
There's anger because people feel economic and social changes have hurt them. Thousands of people haven't seen their wages grow. They've seen them stagnate. But how you deal with that is not through hate and fear. And I think our media too often, too much of it, sets it up as one of fear and, hatred and pitting people versus each other as opposed to trying to find solutions or ideas. And you get people like Trump or Carly Fiorina, and instead of saluting an organization which has helped women's reproductive rights for decades, marking its 100th anniversary this coming year, you see this hatred which leads to something like Colorado Springs.
Trump has dipped a little bit in the polls, but he still is ahead of the field, and it looks like he's going to steamroll his way to the nomination. I mean, I don't see anyone tripping him up. If this doesn't trip him up, he's dipped a little in the polls, but he's still ahead of everybody else. And, of course, he has the resource to maintain it. We'll see how it goes. Katrina, always good to visit with you. Thank you so much for your time here on Ed Schultz News and Commentary. Katrina vanden Heuvel with us here.